culture that Sam Pittman has every day in our working environment, you can't beat it. I've not worked that many places, but you can't tell me it's better somewhere else. I think we've got a great administrative support. The fan base is the best I've ever seen. It's unbelievable. For me and my family and what we have going on defensively and program-wise, it's the best job in the country for me right now.
No, explosive plays is a huge reason you win. And it's a huge reason if you give them up on defense that you lose. And that and turnovers. Those are two of the most important stats that are out there today. And we've gotten better at it this spring, and we're going to continue to get better at it. And we had an emphasis all spring. We're going to throw the ball down the field.
So we can take that as an indication.
Yeah, you got to. You got to be able to create play. Everywhere I've ever been before. I mean, last year we didn't do it as much. Injuries, and a receiver lost 2 or 3 of the receivers and things, but we're going to take shots down the field. You've got to be able to do it, and you've got to be able to create it, so you got to practice them and go. And we're going to continue to do them. Got to.
He's going to dive and put his head down in the spring game when I'm blowing the whistle. I mean, that's the only thing I was upset about with him today. But no, I mean, he's a competitor, as I've mentioned. I mean, you all see it. I mean, every time he takes the field, he's trying to get better. He's competing. He's worried about being the best player for himself. He knows he'll help us when he does that. But he's very driven, and he's getting better in a lot of ways. I felt like he was a little off on one throw today, but, most of the time he looked very smooth and very clean. I'm sure Rich and him will watch the film and look at the footwork and all the little things that he's working on to become a even better player.
Oh, welcome in to the latest episode of that SEC podcast. I'm your host, Michael Bratton. I go by SEC Mike on Twitter. And I'm joined, as always, by my cousin Shane, who goes by Big Orange Vols on Twitter. What are you up to, you big Tennessee homer?
Hey, buddy, what's going on?
Oh, man, I'm not going to lie, Shane. I'm getting a little buzz here from the Saturday action. I know it's just spring games, but that's all the SEC football we're going to get for a couple months. So I was soaking it up, watching Kentucky, Texas A&M, and Auburn over the weekend. So I figured this would be a great opportunity to hop on the line and kind of just share my thoughts on those games and a little bit. There's other SEC news. So how's that sound to you, brother?
That sounds good. So you were the only fan watching Kentucky, huh? No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. I felt bad for him, I felt bad for the fans because, as you know, this East Tennessee, Kentucky weather, I mean, and I guess it's like this everywhere. I don't know, but it's been absolutely crazy here lately.
Right.
It goes from 70 degrees. Everybody's getting sunburnt, and the next day there's snow on the ground. I mean, it was literally snowing yesterday, and then it got up to over 70 again today. So it's just like, no wonder everybody's sick, And I felt bad because it hit on Saturday up there, and I can only imagine how cold it was in Lexington, but free game or not, that's a tough one to go to if you're just going to go up there and watch your ball club. So when you could watch it at home. So I felt bad for those guys, but boy, was Vol Twitter fired up, man.
Yeah, and Shane, I got to admit I was partly responsible for this. And, I knew they were talking that the weather was going to be rough. So, I didn't expect a big crowd. But I didn't know that there was a damn snowstorm about 2 hours before kickoff, so it was understandable. But like I said, our buddy Nick Roush over there at Kentucky Sports, he tweeted out from the press box covering the game, the outstanding coverage he does over there at Kentucky Sports Radio. But he showed the spring game, and literally there's like 100 people there. And I tweeted that. I just retweeted it. That's all I did. I wasn't mocking it or anything, but I was just like, my goodness, I didn't know it was going to be this bad. Like I said, I didn't realize there was a blizzard an hour before, but some of the comments, Shane, were just gold, including one fan, let's throw his tweet up here, had no idea that Kentucky was going to be honoring Vanderbilt with the spring game. I thought that was great. Someone else talked about the shortages up there at Kroger have gotten even worse than anticipated. So this is how you know, Shane, that SEC football truly, I mean, we care about it more than anything. I mean, who in the hell's throwing zingers at Pac-12 spring attendance?
Nope,
they don't
nobody.
They don't even hold those damn spring games.
Mike,
you know what I mean?
There's no such thing as off season in the SEC, son. There is never a day that goes by that a Tennessee fan can't make fun of Kentucky, that a Bama fan can't make fun of Auburn, I love watching it around the league, and spring games were no short of jokes. But it was really, really good to see these boys get out there. A little taste, man. That's all it is. This is an appy, a little appetizer, a little blooming onion for you guys. And we're just waiting for some real football, but this is as close as we're going to get for a little bit. And it was nice seeing some action, man.
Yeah, so like I said, we'll break those down in just a minute here, Shane. But a little bit of news across the SEC that I want to touch on first. And, man, this time next week, Shane, there's going to be so much going on. We've got 6 spring games on Saturday. Yep. We've got Florida playing Thursday night. So we have got a ton of action here in the week to come. So we're gonna be hitting on all those teams all week. But so I can't spend a whole episode breaking down scrimmages that happened while we had spring games as well. So we're gonna hit on a lot of the scrimmage talk the rest of the week. But
yeah,
one team that is coming to an end here in a week, Shane, the Georgia Bulldogs, the defending national champions. And we had some big news there in Athens here on Sunday because 2 former 5-star linemen, Amarius Mims and Clay Webb, both hitting the transfer portal here on Sunday. Now, Webb, I'm not calling him out because I certainly think both these guys are going to get plenty of offers. But
yeah,
I think for Webb, this is a situation where he was struggling to get on the field, and hell, Georgia's loaded with linemen, so maybe that says more about Georgia than anything else. But Amarius Mims, Shane, I don't think there's any question. He's maybe the top prospect in the transfer portal right now, and some of that is just how massive potential he has. I believe he's only a sophomore, so he's got several years ahead of him. But more importantly, there's just not a lot of left tackles available in the transfer portal. I mean, Vanderbilt's got a guy, Sheen, who, again, I'm not trying to trash him or anything. He's a solid player, but you should see his scholarship offers. I mean, Alabama, LSU, Tennessee, everybody in the country is after this Sheen. I think anybody that is in any kind of need for an offensive tackle, and that's basically the entire country, they're going to be beating down Mims' door to get him on campus. And according to Mike Griffith over there at Dog Nation. Now, here's the interesting part, Shane. This does not have, in his words, the path to the starting left tackle job was open to Mims. And this is more about getting out there and seeing what his value is. And this is where we're at, Shane, in the NIL era. And maybe this is why some people are totally against it and don't want to see it. But hell, if he's worth something and someone's willing to pay him, and apparently Florida State, Miami are already on Mims, I guarantee you LSU, Tennessee, they're probably beating down his door along with many, many others here. But it's pretty wild, Shane, isn't it? That now the deadline's May 1, so we're a couple weeks away from that transfer portal deadline. So we're going to see a lot of marquee players potentially hit this portal in the coming weeks. But we're going to find out what a starting left tackle is worth in the SEC. Because I think as soon as Mims makes a commitment, he's going to have some NIL hit his door conveniently. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The thing about it, Mike, is I don't know if you've ever heard of this guy. What is his name? Mike Gundy. Have you ever heard of that guy?
Yes, sir.
And it seems like every year there's a hot name that hits the press that, he's looking for a new job or he's fielding new opportunities. And guess what? Oklahoma State just turns around and gives him some more money. So don't be surprised if that's not what this is. I mean, I don't know the entire situation, but, there is a lot of money being handed out down there in Athens, and maybe these guys don't feel like they're getting quite enough. But once you put your name in the portal, you better believe some of these boosters are talking, and don't be surprised if Mims doesn't stick around. Now the other one, I get his situation, but I wouldn't panic, because this is also this is the next chapter of NIL, and it used to be the transfer portal for the few years. If you weren't going to get some playing time, well, you're bouncing, you're gone. Coaches promise you something, you didn't get it, you're gone. Well, now you're going to see, well, why should this guy get paid playing the same position or on the other side of me, and I'm not getting as much as him, and he's driving around these brand new cars. You know what I'm saying? So don't be surprised if we don't see more of this. And it's not so much a fear of them leaving. It's just, hey, man, I will go if I don't get paid what I think I'm worth.
Yeah, absolutely, Shane. There's been a number of guys that have hit the portal, and then a day or two later, what do you know? They take their name right out, and
yeah,
they're not broadcasting it, but that's generally what you're seeing. There is an NIL deal floated their way. Hey, all of a sudden they're happy back where they were, and now again, Matt Luke, of course, the former Ole Miss coach and last season offensive line coach at Georgia, no longer. He resigned from his position there. So they do have a new position coach. I don't know how much of a factor that plays into it, but
right,
certainly.
I mean, it's got to play a factor, man.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, maybe he just, in first couple of days in camp here, maybe not a fan of the new offensive line coach down there. But I will say, let's do this real quick, Shane. I just want to kick it over to Kirby. This was a couple weeks ago. He was talking about Mims and just what the tremendous strides he's made since last season.
It's the same way at offensive line. We look at offensive line, and I'm like, man, look how far Amarius Mims has come. Man, look how far this guy's grown and gotten better. Devin Willock. I mean, like I want to see the players improve.
Yeah. All right, hey, if I'm Mims, I don't know if he's got an agent, Shane, but I'd be cutting up this clip and sending it out to the rest of the schools. How about you?
That's exactly right. Put it in a TikTok. You know what I'm saying? Hey, I tell you, man, if anything, I hope Tennessee's established a transfer portal, pipeline for these offensive linemen out of Georgia. We will take them. So will everybody else in the country. I mean, there's, like you said, it is not a position that you could just go out and find. Some of these kids, they've had to comb for 3 or 4 years to get them to that starting left tackle position. Mims is a guy that steps in and just transforms a team, that protects your best quarterback, or your biggest asset back there with the ball. So, this is an interesting portal hit. I don't think it's the biggest one we've seen. Well, maybe physically, but but as far as just changing a team's dynamics, but it's up there, brother.
All right, Shane, speaking of a team that is going to have they're not even technically having a spring game, but their spring is coming to a conclusion here in the next week. Let's kick it on down to Fayetteville real quick, where Kendall Browse, the offensive coordinator, Barry Odom, the defensive coordinator, they met with the media here over the weekend, and Barry Odom had some viral comments. We all know the offers that Barry Odom has had. Basically, since he's got to Arkansas, he's done such a great job. He's getting coordinator jobs offered to him left and right. There's been, suggestions that, even a head coaching jobs may be floating his way, and he talks about that. So let's kick it over to Barry Odom, because Arkansas fans, man, they ate these comments up, and I think he will too, Shane.
Sam has been very enthusiastic about the stability at coordinators. And I'm wondering, you've had options. What's kept you here for a third year, and what's going on here?
Yeah, there's going to be. I mean, if your players play really well, you're going to have opportunities every year. That's not going to change. My thought process on having an opportunity to come back with this group another year was, above everything, the most important thing. Number one, the culture that Sam Pittman has every day in our working environment, you can't beat it. I've not worked that many places, but you can't tell me it's better somewhere else. I think we've got a great administrative support. The fan base is the best I've ever seen. It's unbelievable. I believe with the team that we have, the way we've been able to recruit, my family is really happy here. I'm excited and happy to be here. I think we can achieve great success here. So all those things combined, if there's an opportunity for me to be I had opportunities as, in a couple of things this offseason to be a head coach again. I'm not going to go take a head coaching position again just to say I did it. I don't need that. My ego doesn't need it. I don't need it. I'm having as fun as I've ever had coaching, being here. And I don't know if fun has anything to do with it, but I enjoy getting up and going to work every day. The student athletes that I've got a chance to coach right now, They're bought in. They like to play ball. They like to practice. They like to compete. They're doing a great job academically. It's a fun group to be around. Someday, some year, if a head coaching opportunity presents itself, then I may go make a run at it. But it's got to be the right fit with the right alignment. And I feel like Arkansas is a special place. I feel like it is, for me and my family and what we have going on defensively and program-wise, it's the best job in the country for me right now.
All right, Shane. So, again, you hear comments like this. It's very, very easy to see why the Arkansas Razorbacks have turned around very quickly under Sam Pittman. And I thought it was great that after I sent this out, Dave Bartu, my buddy down there, runs CFB Matrix. He tweeted me and said, this is the best defensive coordinator in the SEC based on his grades. And, that's, again, this is, we give Sam Pittman all the credit in the world. He deserves it. But Barry Odom, too, right there has got to get, almost equal credit, in my opinion, for what he's done with this Arkansas defense. And I think the best is yet to come for these Razorbacks.
Absolutely. And Mike, there's no way in hell I'm going anywhere. But if the right offer comes around, it's like one thing I love about it is it's repetitive, man. It's every time that we get an open forum, that's what they want to know. What's your next move? They just can't believe that he's sticking around in Arkansas. But that's, like you said, it's the culture they've created down there. And, these Arkansas fans are excited because how long has it been since anybody has tried to poach coaches from the staff? You know what I'm saying? So right. This is what you want. You want to worry about your coordinators in the offseason because the program that should show you that the program is definitely moving in the right direction. And the fact that they're sticking around shows again what Sam is able to do there in Arkansas. So it's a great story, man, and I'm here for it.
And the one story, Shane, underlining this whole Arkansas thing, and I have no idea when Sam Pittman's going to retire. I'm not sitting here saying he's going to retire anytime soon, but that was out there before he got the Arkansas job that he was kind of, clearly on the back nine, kind of eyeing that retirement. But of course, you get your dream job, that can certainly change things. So, right. Hell, he may coach another 10 years at Arkansas. I hope he does. But there may come a time, Shane, when if you got the best defensive coordinator in the SEC and you got Kendall Browse, who's top 5 offensive coordinator, and maybe by the end of this season, everybody sees him as the best offensive coordinator. These guys are getting offers left and right to be coordinators, but I wonder if we ever get to a point, Shane, where it's almost like a race to see which one of them is going to be the next Arkansas head coach, because I don't think that Arkansas could do better provided these guys, want the job, and I'm sure they would if Sam Pittman were to retire. But both these guys seem very qualified. You'd want an offensive guru, or you'd want the best defensive coordinator in the SEC. I mean, maybe I'm putting the cart before the horse, but I'm just thinking ahead of what an interesting dynamic that could potentially be one day.
Well, yeah, and it just what they're doing right now is what it's creating. I mean, think about this. When Arkansas was not a place you wanted to go head coach. You know what I'm saying? There's a reason Sam Pittman is over there. It's not that he wasn't their first call, brother. They had other shots. This is where they landed. But what he's done down there has made this job more and more attractive each season. So, yeah, there'll come a time Sam decides to hang it up and walk away. But when he does, brother, I'm telling you, I love Coach Odom, but there's going to be a long line of other coaches that's going to want to come in.
Right. Yeah, no doubt. And to further your point, Shade, we had Brent Zerneman, a Texas A&M insider, on a long time ago. He said Chad Morris wanted that A&M job, and why wouldn't he? But when they said no, he said, "All right, I'll go be Arkansas coach." So you're right. It's certainly come a long way in a short time there in Fayetteville. But speaking of the Aggies, Shane, let's jump on down to College Station, where the Aggies just wrapped up spring practice there with their annual spring game. And, man, of course, all eyes on this quarterback competition, Shade. And I got to be honest, After watching
Who
this,
is it?
Watching this,
Who's
thing
our guy,
twice,
man?
I think we're further away from an answer than we were before, man. Let me tell you, we come out here, Max Johnson, first quarterback on the field. He goes 3 and out. You're thinking, oh, man,
Here we go.
old Max, he ain't going to do it, right? Haynes King comes out, first drive, looks incredible, leads the team all the way down, has a 21-yard rushing touchdown, looks Johnny Manziel 2.0.
Here's our guy.
there.
He's our guy.
He's our guy. And then Max Johnson responds with a 49-yard rush, touchdown drive. He looks incredible. And then Haynes King turns around and goes 3 and out. So it's like, what are we doing here? Now, we're going to play some comments here from Jimbo in just a second. He keeps hitting on, it was a very windy day. I always, when they start saying stuff like that, I feel like they're covering for the quarterback. But, they really wanted to emphasize pushing the ball down the field. And there was not a lot of home runs hit with any of the quarterbacks. They even put in Connor Wigman, the 5-star true freshman. And he certainly looked good, Shane. But I think there's a slight gap just based purely on the spring game. Haynes King, Max Johnson, and then slightly step down from Wigman. But they all look good. And at this point in time.
Is that your order right now?
Right now, I'd probably say Haynes King 1.
Okay.
Max Johnson 2. But, I mean, we're really splitting hairs there. And then Wigman, the freshman, I think he's a clear 3 just based on what I saw. But, based on some reports out there, he may be the starting quarterback. So, again, that's how jumbled of a competition we got here in A&M. And I think Jimbo's playing it smart. He won't really comment on it. He says, I got to watch the film. I mean, he's not putting any quotes out there. Make these guys work their ass off this summer. And we go into training camp. Everybody's on even ground. But honestly, I could see any of the 3 winning it. But to me, Max Johnson, Haynes King, it's going to be one of those guys. But it's a little, I'm not hitting the panic button, Shane, but this is what we've seen out of Max Johnson and Haynes King. Yeah. From what we've seen them, just sometimes they look spectacular, sometimes they don't look good. So very inconsistent from those guys. But I'm nowhere close to an answer after seeing the spring game.
Oof. Yeah. Yeah, you kind of like I was hoping one would step, like you said, the separation is what I was looking for. And that second drive, you're just like, oh, yeah, there's our guy.
Yep.
There's our guy. And then Big Bad Brad's son came out and is like, oh, wait a minute. He's still got a little gas in the tank, So I'm torn on this myself. But, I think you got 2 good, serviceable quarterbacks. That's hard to have in the SEC, and that's something Texas A&M struggled with last year. So, I'm going to go to the opposite, that you've got 2 first-seeders there. It's just we need to. I mean, you're giving away precious reps, man. So we're gonna have to get this thing ready by the time fall camp kicks off. But man, right now it's a tight race, brother.
And then here's some good news here, Shade, for all the Aggies out there. They signed so many 5-stars, but most programs, when you sign a 5-star, you don't get that many. You hope they live up to the hype. They landed what some people are saying, the number 1 receiver in the country. I know Missouri fans will take issue with that, but regardless, Evan Stewart, the 5-star freshman, Shane, he come out here, he looked the part, 7 catches. Yeah. And here's the most interesting thing I got from the spring game, Shane. They handed out spring awards at halftime.
Yeah.
Evan Stewart, the freshman, true freshman, was named offensive MVP. And when you got a guy early enroll, they always use that. I hate when they say this, but he should be at high school prom right now. But that's where this guy is. Yet he's out here winning offensive MVP for the Texas A&M Aggies, a team many people, have as a top 10 team in the country. That gives you an indication of how good of a player Evan Stewart is. Euclid Brown, the sophomore receiver, he was named. There was 3, but one of the 3 named most improved offensive player. And then Blake Smith, tight end, he caught a touchdown in this game. I'm hearing good things about him. And I say all that, Shane, to say this. Whoever wins this starting job is going to be surrounded by weapons. There are no shortage of weapons for the Texas A&M Aggies. So, they have got to get this quarterback situation figured out, and they got to get the right answer. But if they do, this offense poised to really explode this fall in College Station. I really think.
And that's what it is, Mike. It's like I said, the reps. It's just knowing those weapons around you, knowing how they react and where they're going to be, and it's the timing and stuff like that. So yeah, I just hope they wrap up this quarterback controversy quick, and it's going to hurt somebody's feelings, going to hurt a couple of parents' feelings, but get all in on somebody, because like you said, with all these weapons around, there's no reason that Texas A&M cannot make a run next year.
Mm-hmm.
Jimbo, just your overall evaluation of all three quarterbacks.
I can't tell till I watch the film and what happened. Had a lot of drop balls and had some tough balls. You standing behind it, just throwing good balls, and all of a sudden the wind just takes them and runs them. So, but you got those days like that. If you're gonna throw it at 30 miles an hour and you're trying to throw it down the field, you got to figure out a way to do it. So too many turnovers in that group right there. Got to play better. Had been playing much better during camp, but we'll look and see why. I can't always tell why, when there was pressure, or I might have been looking downfield, had pressure, or underneath routes, and they had quite a few drops today. I mean, we had quite a few. We had to play better wide out too. I wasn't very pleased in that regard. Drop ball, whether it's windy or not, you got to be able to catch a football and get where we get. But we'll look at that and see. I won't be able to judge till I watch the film. But nothing spectacular. But had moments early when the wind wasn't as bad. We made a couple of really nice throws those first 2 or 3 drives and picked up some real nice third downs, and it just kept getting gustier and gustier. I'll check my phone. I had a little thing on there. It was 32, 33, 34 miles an hour, and it was just because once I started the ball, it just started shooting, and it wasn't good. But say, you got to play in those conditions. You got to figure out a way to do it.
Jimbo, you've talked a lot about Evan Stewart already this spring, but to have a midterm freshman come in and be the offensive MVP, you just talk about what you've seen from him so far?
Well, I mean, the effort in the offseason program, not just on the field, offseason program. Every day in the offseason program, he was out front leading everybody, running, doing things. Very productive in all the practices and scrimmages, and still has a long way to go. He's got a long way to work on what he's going, but has the potential. But his consistency day in, day out was the thing was very pleasing. Very pleasing.
Read too much into a spring game, but y'all threw the ball deep I think I counted about 10 times.
We were trying to, and then it wasn't today to do it. Like if you were calling plays today, you couldn't do that because you'd have to pick because of the wind. But we wanted to get those opportunities. We had it planned that way. We wanted to try to create big plays down the field, and we also didn't want to create a lot of piles. When you keep running the ball in spring games, you get this far, there's no sense to create a bunch of piles and get a bunch. When you create piles, that's where everybody gets hurt. So we were trying to, which we've done all spring. We've thrown the ball down the field very well on days that we didn't have the wind, and that ball kept. But still, I wanted to keep doing it. I don't care if you had to win. Let's see what happens and see who can make plays or make catches or explosive plays is a huge reason you win, and it's a huge reason if you give them up on defense that you lose. And that and turnovers. Those are two of the most important stats that are out there today, and we've gotten better at it this spring, and we're going to continue to get better at it. And we had an emphasis all spring. We're going to throw the ball down the field.
So we can take that as an indication.
Yeah, you got to. You got to be able to create play. Everywhere I've ever been before. I mean, last year we didn't do it as much. Injuries, a receiver lost 2 or 3 of the receivers and things, but we're going to take shots down the field. You've got to be able to do it, and you've got to be able to create it, so you got to practice them and go. And we're going to continue to do them. Got to.
Jimbo, obviously just a spring game, but we saw Max make several plays with his feet. Obviously,
yeah, as I said, that's what I've been telling you. I mean, he runs better than you give him credit. Everybody thinks of him as a pocket passer, but he has really good mobility and good feel in the pocket, and he can run. I mean, he can do that. And like I said, he's continued. He's had a good, solid spring, and last scrimmage really threw the ball well. And, it was a very, like I said, it wasn't a surprise to me because I've seen it every day in practice. But to some folks, they didn't think he could move as well. And he's a very good athlete.
All right, Shane, moving on to Kentucky. It was the Ice Bowl, like I said, here in 2022. But we had a blizzard, but we actually, the field was cleared by the time they kicked this thing off, Shane. And they did it a little different there in Kentucky. I like the way they did it. They didn't keep score, which was interesting, but they had the first team offense versus the first team defense, and they had the twos against the twos, and I think that's the best way to do it. And the main takeaway from this one, Shane, I wanted to see this offense, of course, with their new offensive coordinator, new offensive line coach. Did it look vastly different? No. They kept it pretty vanilla, in my opinion. But the key takeaway, Shane, Will Levis, he stood out in this game to me. Now, he only had 2 series, Shane, but he drove the length of the field, scored a touchdown on both of them. One pass to Chris Rodriguez, the running back. So it's good to see Rodriguez get more and more involved in the passing game. And then they have a true freshman step up, Dane Keene, who was the number 1 overall prospect from the state of Kentucky. Another true freshman stepping up here in the SEC. You love to see it. And this Virginia Tech transfer, Shane, that everyone's hyping up, Trayvon Williams, I always say it's very unfair. We cannot compare him to Wan'Dale Robinson. I mean, that guy was like a revelation. But he looked fully capable of filling into that role, so to speak. I mean, he's not going to have 120 receptions, whatever Wan'Dale had last year, but he'll probably give you 80 and hopefully 1,000 yards or something like that. I could see that in his, and that's all you really need with Chris Rodriguez, with a star quarterback. And I think I may be undervalued how good Will Levis is because of how sharp he looked. Again, going against the first team defense, he really did anything he wanted here in the Kentucky spring game, and I was very impressed by Will Levis.
I'm with you on the ones and ones because then you could really – because a lot of times you're watching these games, you're like, man, you're trying to figure out, does their offense suck or the defense? It's like it's never who's good. But Will coming out there and connecting on dimes, it's clear that he's ready to take the next step, which is important because I thought what he was able to do last year was phenomenal. But there were some games, there were some moments that we wondered, is this the dude? You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And I don't know, just he felt like a team leader. Last year he felt like he was trying to fit in, or he was, he slowly but surely became that product, but he came out like a captain this time, man. And that's what I want to see from my quarterback. And I wanted to see from this offense. You're right. It was vanilla. It didn't really show us a lot of anything, but what we did see were the key players making key moves. And, I'm telling you, Kentucky's going to be scary this year, brother. A lot of people. It's funny. It's so funny. How many years can they do well and people still? Man, I don't know. Last year was a fluke. What about the last 4 years? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I'm really liking this program, and I expect them to create some havoc in the East, brother.
Yeah, and I think Kentucky did us a favor going ones on ones because when you bring back a senior quarterback. And, the format of these games, they're not touching the quarterback. So they have no fear. You really need to see the offense lead the way. If the offense does not lead the way and you got a senior quarterback with plenty of experience, and I don't care if he's going against the ones or not, the offense, if they don't win the day, we got issues because Springs is not set up for a defensive showcase. I mean, there's no head hunting. They're not trying to kill anybody. But so that was a great sign, I thought, from Will Levis. Chris Rodriguez, he looked he didn't play a ton, but he looked pretty solid. And one guy I was really looking for, Jatwan McClain, the backup running back. He is starting to emerge there with Cavassier Smoke. So we got a three-headed monster once again. At running back for Kentucky. So, yeah, I think this offense is probably going to be the best. I'm trying to think of, that Lynn Bowden. I mean, that sure was fun. I mean, they were running over everybody they faced, but it just wasn't balanced enough to get the deal done against elite SEC opponents. This offense could be, and like I said, we've not even seen a Kentucky defense at full force in a showcase game like this. So as long as that defense continues to take strides, this should be the best D-line they've ever had. This may be the best linebacking core in the SEC with all the guys they got returning there. Kentucky, like you said, they're going to be a problem this year.
Yeah, and the running game, man, you got a three-headed monster. We got to keep. That's one thing we always talked about, those big uglies up front at Kentucky, and they've seemed to always reload. But it felt like times last year we had a little tough time getting that running game going, which put that weight on Will's shoulders. And for this Kentucky team to work, man, it's got to be balanced. It can't just be one guy out there doing it all. So. That's what I felt like I saw a little bit more of the spring game. It wasn't all one guy. It was a team effort, but it was led by Will. So, this is going to be an exciting year. Wasn't a lot of fans, and I hate that a lot of them didn't get out there, but I tell you, there's a lot of people happy in Lexington, brother.
I bet old Ollie was up there. What do you think?
I'd say so, yeah. I guarantee he was making snow angels on the sideline,
This was the first time the fans have gotten to see Rich Scangrello's offense. What would you have to say about how you like the offense today?
It's when it's all said and done, we're very excited about where we're going. We had again, we were relatively basic today, but there's quite a bit of carryover. That you can see some nuances. You probably aren't used to seeing a fullback back there sometimes, so that's a little different. But really, you're just moving the tight end around, when you're playing with 12 personnel and how you move them, what you do with them, and create different looks. But there's a lot we could do that way. But we're excited about where we're heading with the offense.
What's kind of impressed you the most with the game? Obviously, you had a drop early and then kind of showed maturity by making a couple big plays after that.
Yeah, he has a really good feel for the game. He really doesn't, for a guy that could be, playing spring sports in high school right now. He's very mature in his approach. He's been very consistent. With young guys, you have a tendency to see him have some ups and some downs, and of course that'll be the case with him. But he's more consistent than most younger people I've seen. I like the way he approaches it. He's very mature, and he also has a very good feel for it. The talent's there, but there's also some things that the understanding of the game that you can tell very early that he has that.
You mentioned the confidence obviously didn't go anywhere. He scrambled, tried to run a couple guys over there.
Yeah.
On that one, what did you see out of him, and just how his confidence just will not go away?
Yeah. I mean, he's going to dive and put his head down in a spring game when I'm blowing the whistle. I mean, that's the only thing I was upset about with him today. But no, I mean, he's a competitor, as I've mentioned. I mean, you all see it. I mean, every time he takes the field, he's trying to get better. He's competing. He's worried about being the best player for himself. He knows he'll help us when he does that. But he's very driven, and he's getting better in a lot of ways. I felt like he was a little off on one throw today, but most of the time he looked very smooth and very clean. I'm sure Rich and him will watch the film and look at the footwork and all the little things that he's working on to become a even better player.
What do you feel like your group has proved here this spring?
Pardon me?
Through the practices and today, what is your group proving? What are they showing you that what they're made
The team or the team is, it doesn't surprise me. I mean, I know them, I'm around them all the time, and their approach is very consistent, and we're constantly striving to get better. As I tell them each and every day, each person needs to take that and fundamentally try to get better, and in any area of weakness or the things they do well, continue to improve on it. Things where they're falling short, work hard at it. And if they individually get better, then, we can't help but collectively as a group get better. But you have to have that mindset each and every day. It gets a little monotonous through the spring. It's a long time. These guys are up early every day, and we practice or we're meeting or they're lifting and things like that. And you have to stay consistent.
All right, Shane, last team here. Got to hit on the spring game, the Auburn Tigers. And again, it's always funky how these teams, they switch it up the format, and you never know what you're going to get. For the Tigers, Shane, it was first team offense versus second team defense, second team offense versus first team defense, and they only did 8-minute quarters and a running clock. And by the time the first drive was over, it was second quarter. It was like they were trying to get out of there in a hurry, but they basically went hurry up the entire time on the offense. And Zach Calzada did not play. He's been very limited this spring.
Right.
Had I believe it was a non-throwing shoulder injury or not injury, but just a cleanup surgery. So he's expected to be full go by the fall. And he may be our leader in the clubhouse, Shane, based on what I saw. But, man, I hate to say this, but I think TJ Finley just kind of is who he is at this point. He'll come out here with just a terrible overthrow, and then he'll come out here and drop an incredible dime. But
yeah,
we've seen it for 2 years now, Shane, and we're going into year 3, and it looks the same as it's always looked. So, he won him the Georgia State game. Let's give him credit. Yeah. He played well at times, damn near beat Alabama. I'm not saying TJ Finley can't play quarterback, but he may be the best backup in the SEC, because I came away, Shane, loving this Robbie Ashford kid. Transfer from Oregon, much smaller than TJ Finley, but a much faster athlete. He seemed accurate. And again, he was leading the second team Auburn offense against the first team defense. And I thought he was a better player there than TJ Finley in this spring game. So they have got some major major questions to answer in training camp when the season's coming around, because then we're going to throw Calzada into this mix. And again, I'm further from knowing who the quarterback's going to be at Auburn, but I just based on what I've seen and based on what I've heard this spring, I don't think it's going to be TJ Finley.
No, I mean, Mike, if it walks like a duck and talks like a duck, it's a damn duck. You know what I'm saying? It's like we know what TJ is, and we keep highlighting his highlights and sometimes ignoring the downs. Like you said, just the overthrows and the just boneheaded mistakes out there, and it just, I don't know, man. I just don't think he's the guy. And I hate to say it because, I always root for these kids, man. I'm always looking for one just to pop and maybe just finally understand the game and can, do his progressions better, but it's just, some folks just can't, man. They may have, a freaking cannon, which he does, but, an arm can only get you so far. It's a complete total package. And Auburn is going to need a quarterback that's more consistent. They're going to need a quarterback to win damn games, not just Georgia State games. I'm saying to keep Brian's job, we're going to have to get the most out of this quarterback. And I think we've seen what an ideal situation looks like with TJ. So I think it's time to close that. But again, it's spring. Here I am overreacting. I tried not to overreact in the spring. Maybe it was just, new coordinator. Just you got to remember, this is a new offense, new faces. There's new weapons out there. So maybe this thing gets a little more fine tuned in the fall. But right now, it's hard for me to come away from this game thinking, TJ's got a shot at this thing.
Yeah, and the Auburn was down on several starting offensive linemen, so maybe that played a factor. Like you said, we don't want to completely overreact. But I will say, Shane, the tight end Shanker, I mean, he looked solid as ever. He had a fantastic season last year. But aside from him, Tank Bigsby did catch a lot of passes out of the backfield. I guess we got to include him as well. But beyond that, man, the receivers we're looking kind of rough here at Auburn. Lots of drops. Now, I mean, there was a player or two made, no doubt. But, man, when we have quarterback questions, offensive line questions, receiver questions, they better have one hell of a defense down there at Auburn is all I'm saying, because I don't know. It may take a little while to get this offense up and off the ground. And I don't know, again, outside of their outstanding running back, their great tight end, I don't know how many other weapons they're going to have in this offense. And they're ones I think are definitely going to have to utilize the transfer portal to get a game breaker or two in the portal if they can.
Yeah, they may lead the nation in trick plays next year, Mike. Halfback passes. It's going to be Tank to the left, Tank to the right. And let's see if Tank can throw down the field.
See it on the field.
Coach, the quarterback, it's a big conversation.
Is it?
What you did
last year. You want to talk about the QBs?
Yeah. So what you did last year with Bo and TJ, are you kind of doing that again? And is it wide open? Are you going to wait until Zach gets a little better? Is there a chance that Robbie could potentially start on this team?
Yeah. Well, we haven't named a starter. All right. So I would say every guy at that position has a chance to be the guy. And so, at least as far as I know, we haven't named one, and that's okay. And those guys know that. That's not a knock on any one of them. It's just this competition continues, and what I've told our players, I mean, they're going to get their opportunities, and the best players will play. That's how it should be. So, and what we did last year, or the perception of that, really has no impact on what we're doing moving forward. All right, we're going to decide who a quarterback is. That will happen before we go out there and play. And those guys, if it's one guy, if it's other guys that deserve to play, we'll find a role for them on the field. And that's no different for me. We play a lot of guys on offense and defense, and sometimes as a quarterback, there's one guy out there. But if you deserve to play, we can find a role somehow, some way. So
all those guys, and including Zach didn't get many reps. We didn't get to see Zach today. We can't put him out there. He's got a shoulder injury. But every single rep Zach has had an opportunity to take, I think he's done a pretty good job. So he's going to be in the mix. He's going to be cleared and able to go out there and participate, all right, like everybody else. And so come fall, he'll have the opportunities just like these guys. We're going to have to, at some point after that first scrimmage in fall, we got to hone it down to, right, here's our top guys, get them more reps, and then make a decision. And when we do, we'll name a starter, and then that doesn't mean that other guys won't have a role somewhere on this team. But I like what TJ has done this spring. And TJ has played. TJ's got a good command of the offense. TJ has really stepped up as a leader. It was good to see Robbie go out there and play. Robbie's learning a whole new system. Robbie played baseball. This is the first time just playing football, and he's learning something new. You know, he was at Oregon before. You got Zach coming in. He played at A&M. He's learning. And those guys are up there all the time trying to get as much information as they can before they go on the field and practice. Holden is a freshman, and I know this, like after practice 6 and 7, there's a lot. You know, it's a lot to digest. And even Holden went out there today and just clipping down the field, made a great throw at the end. It was good to see him just cut it loose and play. So all those guys, they're all competing for that spot, and they're all doing everything they can to put themselves in the best position to succeed, so our team can go out there and win, so our offense can be productive. And so, yeah, I mean, but they're, you know, they all get along. You got Sawyer Payton there, Trey Lindsey. Those guys are part of that as well. So that entire group of quarterbacks, yeah, they're competing, but they're also trying to make sure that whoever does play is going to be a guy that makes a difference for this football team, and we go out there and actually play against another opponent and trying to win games.
Brian, sorry, I'm going back to quarterbacks.
I'm sure there was going to be another one on that, yes.
As far as Robbie, you say he's learning a new system and he hasn't played for 2 years. How important for him was it to come in today and kind of get that rust off of playing in a live game?
Yeah, well, I think one of Robbie's strengths is going to be live. And it's not his fault that he doesn't get the chance to do that. All right, we control that. And that's what I'm saying. You know, a guy swings his arm out there. You know, is that really going to be a sack with Robbie? Probably not. You know, I mean, he's very, very athletic. And you guys could see that today. As far as like the rust, I mean, he was working hard up to the first practice. You know, the first practice you're getting out there. And I really believe this too. For a quarterback, it's not just when you get into a competitive or a game situation. Like every rep you take, routes on air, 7-on-7s, like all that. You got to be thinking about the game because there's just so many factors that are happening around you at all times. And so I would say Coach Keesaw, Coach Hartline in that quarterback room, they've done a good job of making sure those guys just mentally when they go in, they're ready. You know, they're focused, and I get it. It's hard it's 7-on-7. I don't have anybody rushing me. I got kickers out there with bags on their hands. To get yourself in that game mode, but I think our guys did a pretty good job of that. And then today, just going out there and playing, it was good. You know, he did some good things. Got the ball out of his hands, made some good throws. You got to rush, you know, simulating, hey, playing real football and what he would do. I thought he did that today in those situations.
I'm sorry, far right. Hey, Brian, we were talking to Hank Bigsby earlier, and he obviously did just tell him to transfer portal for a little bit this year, really quickly in the offseason. He said you sat down with him, Cadillac sat down with him, and he talked about how his role could grow just maybe more outside of between the tackles, more of a dynamic back in the pass game. We saw some flashes of that today. Is that something when you were pitching for him to stay that you were going to utilize him more as an all-around playmaker?
Yeah, well, I'm not going to get into all that. I mean, that's really kind of family business right there, so we'll just leave it at that, I guess. Yeah.
All right, brother. Hey, well, I think that's all I got on this episode.
Yeah.
You got anything before we jump off the line?
No, like I said, it was just good to see a little college football. You know, we're getting there, gang. We're getting there. This is April. We got May. Then June things start really firing up. July. I mean, then we're starting to see some of these kids show up, and it's ready, man. So. It was nice. You know, there was a couple injuries, you know, that we didn't want to see, but for the most part, it seemed like a so far, knock on wood, a pretty clean offseason. So I'm just looking forward to the next chapter. Who we got scrimmaging this week again?
So we got Florida Gators on Thursday night.
Okay.
That's going to be a fun one. And then on Saturday is going to be all out, Shane. Alabama, Georgia, I believe Arkansas, Mississippi State, Ole Miss, South Carolina. It's basically the entire rest of the SEC. So, there's going to be quite a bit of action to break down this time next week.
Nice.
And, man, I'll be soaking it all up because after that, then there's a big old
and then
drought.
rewatch it. Yeah, then rewatching it for 4 months.
Exactly. So, hey, brother, it's getting kind of late, so let's cut this one. But I do appreciate you, as always. I appreciate each and every one of you for hanging out, as always. We'll catch you on the next one.
All right. See you guys. Go Vols.